Let me know once you start it, and I'll try to refresh my thing again.
We're starting right now.
Okay.
Let me know if this pops up.
We'll do. That's what should be on the screen.
Yes.
Nada. I still got waiting.
Damn, we got 8 people, dude.
I know.
So we're streaming. But where?
North Carolina by 5. Oh shoot. North Carolina by 7.
Oh shit, no wonder. Oh. Okay. We know what the problem is.
Is it easily fixable?
Dude, shut up.
Why are you whispering like we're on the air?
Stream is good, health is good. Nothing.
We need a third employee.
Says I'm live. Tell them just go back to the regular page and
Is it like a new? This one seems to be working.
All right. Well, sorry about that, folks. A little bit of a delay there. Again, this is episode 3. If you can't see it, make sure you let us know. Shoot us a text or something.
Sure.
If just let us know or get on chat or something like that. If you can hear us, or if you can't, just head on over to the actual page, and we're actually just live streaming right now. So, again, we got a great show for you tonight. The big one with MSU coming this Sunday. Michigan with a much-needed win over Maryland this past Saturday. And then plus we got a nice new segment for you guys at the end of the show. You guys should enjoy that. And with me, as always, tonight, the one and only Garrett Collier. G, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, buddy. Had a good week, much better than last week after that terrible loss. So a little bit more cheery and chipper.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. You look a little more positive today, buddy, so that's awesome.
Not ready
that's
to,
awesome.
Not ready to trash anybody.
Right. Yeah, that was a little rough last week. So, well, we'll dive right into it, folks, since we are a little bit behind schedule right now. Our first topic, of course, is that amazing game last Saturday, which Michigan returned home, and basically it was a big win against Maryland, 65-52, pardon me, to improve to 23-3 on the season. Matthews, Iggy, Simpson, all in double figures with points. Matthews with 6 boards, Iggy had 5 boards, and Simpson with another solid game from the point guard position with 8 assists and 1 turnover. No one really wowed me, though, from Maryland. Fernando had a quiet 12 points. Livers, again, off the bench, putting in some solid minutes. Poole, not a great three-point shooting game, 0 for 3. Again, he's kind of struggling from three-point land. And Michigan really as a whole, 26.9% from three-point land. Teskey, 1 of 7, shot a little too much from three-point land, and Livers was also 1 for 4, so a little uncharacteristic of him. What do you think about the game, G?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on pretty much everything. I thought that Charles was good again, 7 of 12 from the floor. That mid-range game is just it's getting better every night. Iggy looked a little bit better. Certainly wasn't great, but 13 points is better than the 4 he's been averaging for the last 5 or 6 games. Like you said, I thought Teskey shot the ball a bit more than normal, which was strange, but he finally hit that big 3 late in the game. That was a little bit of a momentum builder as we got to the final few minutes.
Right.
And then I thought that DeJulius looked really good off the bench. I know he only had a couple minutes, but man, he seems to bring a little bit of a scoring threat that Brooks doesn't seem to bring. And so that's my like hot take for the week, is that I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more DeJulius and a little bit less Eli Brooks.
Well, he has been playing really well off the bench. I remember that Indiana game at home. Remember he came in for Teskey and actually, I think he had double figures, didn't he? Didn't he have like 10 points and something? 10 points, and he had a decent amount of rebounds and stuff too. So that was awesome.
For sure.
I definitely agree, though. He needs to see a few more minutes on the court and stuff like that.
Him and Brandon Johns both.
Yeah, exactly. So just some of the M factors on the game. Again, we'll try to buzz through this since I know a lot of you have to get to bed. You're probably tired, old, and stuff like that. Got kids that got to go to school tomorrow and stuff like that. But M factors for the game, first and foremost, was Simpson with the 8 assists to 1 turnover. Yep. Again, that turnover to assist, or that assist to turnover ratio, that only improved it, don't you think, G? I mean, that was a solid game from Simpson. Just showing again why he's a very good leader on this squad.
Yeah, I think he's been the most consistent player we've had all year. And, despite the one uncharacteristic turnover game against Penn State, outside of that, it's been, 6, 7 assists to 0, 1 or 2 turnovers every game. So, yeah, he was great as usual. And I thought the other thing for me was how well we managed their bigs. Bernardo and Smith are 2 really, really solid bigs and didn't really particularly stand out. So I thought they did a good job defensively on both of those guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then all starters had 8 points or more for Michigan. Livers had 7. Yeah. Again, an uncharacteristically poor shooting game for Livers, but 8 points for all starters, including 3 in double figures. This is more reminiscent of earlier on in the season, don't you think, G?
Yeah, I mean, playing good in big games was what we were kind of known for early in the year, whether it was Villanova, North Carolina, Purdue. Michigan won a lot of big games and then started to struggle in those kind of games. So to see them come out and pretty handily, I mean, 13's not blowing them out, but it's also not, didn't require a last-minute flurry to try to win the game. It was pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and that was the big thing that I saw was the fact that our defense again stepped up. That was actually my third M factor is the allowed 18 points in the first half. 18 points. That's insane. But as you were alluding to before the episode, kind of been some crappy halves of basketball
Yeah.
in terms of the
I don't know if
defensive
it's the
side of the
defense.
ball,
I don't know if
or
it's-
the offensive
I
side.
don't know
I'm
if
sorry.
it's been really good defense or really bad offense, but the last week or so, there's been some bad halves of scoring in the Big Ten. That's for sure.
I'm gonna have to say something I've noticed is the shooting. The shooting
Yeah.
has just been
Poor
terrible
shooting, for sure.
and I don't think they're getting open looks. It's not like
Yep.
it's not like these guys are having to shoot fadeaways and stuff like that.
No, yeah, they're getting clean open looks, running good sets, and just not hitting shots.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the 3-point percentage, my opinion is this is what Michigan winning basketball was early on in the season. Tough, knit-grit defense,
Yep.
followed by a lot of guys that are scoring, a lot of guys that are beating you. You know, you can't just choose to guard one.
Yep.
Matthews has been playing really well the last couple games, which is great because you need that from your leader, right? He is one of
Absolutely.
the older guys, him and Simpson, both juniors. And again, I really think Livers needs to see the court more. I really do. I think he can either come in for Iggy. Iggy, thank goodness, had a good game. And then we got Teskey, who has really not been playing well the last couple of games.
week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah. I guess you could say he had a decent game against, what was it, Wisconsin a couple
Yeah.
Saturdays ago. But it took him a while to heat up in that game, too, to get some
Yep.
dunks, to get a little more aggressive. And then Penn State, he was non-existent. And then you go to Maryland. Again, he
Played good defense, but he just couldn't score.
I think he's a little too timid ever since that Iowa game. He seems to be a little too timid simply because he got called for some ticky-tack fouls. You know, we alluded to this last week. I really do. I really think that he just was just out of his element, and it kind of took him out of his game these last couple games.
Could be, for sure.
So again, Michigan improves to 23-3. Now tonight, we actually had Michigan State with a easy win against OSU, but they had to pay a huge price for that. It was 62-44. They were down at halftime 31-25, but they improved to 21-5 after that Ohio State game. They were winners of 4 straight after tonight's win against Rutgers. They were down again at halftime at home. And it was, again, for the Ohio State game, Goins, Winston, and McQuaid all had double figures. McQuaid led with 14 points, again, 4 of 6 from three-point land. We got to watch out for him.
Yep.
Wesson for OSU led with 12 points, had 9 rebounds. And your boy Goins, 2 for 6 from three-point land.
Telling you, man, and he hit a big one, too, when they were making their little run to kind of get a little bit of a lead in the second half. He hit a big one. Yeah, he's been timely with his buckets. That's one of the notes that I had, was that McQuaid and Goins are both double figures, both proving to be a little bit of scoring threats, which is exactly what State's going to need, especially for the price they paid to win that game on Saturday.
Yeah, and then what Garrett is alluding to, G is alluding to, is the big story was Ward coming out in the second half, appeared to injure his hand. It didn't look too serious. It was wrapped up and stuff.
Yeah, he played a little in the second half.
Yeah, he did.
It was wrapped. I noticed they wrapped it coming out of the locker room. So clearly whatever he did in the first half. And then they wrapped it at halftime, and then he tried to play. I think he only got 3.5, 4 minutes of time in the second half and just shut it down, which is probably obviously the better option if it's as bad as they say it is.
Right. And what I read was he kind of cut it in the first half, and then that probably bruised it or something
really?
like that.
Okay.
And then it got hit in the second half, and I think that's when he had to come out of the game. Now, he didn't get x-rays or anything until after the game, and the news came out that he was diagnosed with a broken hand. He apparently, this injury takes about 3 to 5 weeks to heal, so they are still very optimistic that he comes back by the end of the season. Hopefully he misses that Michigan game. Again, though, still you hate to see a young guy, injure himself like that and take himself out of the season. Not as bad as the Langford injury.
Yeah, I mean, but for State to have both of those guys out is tough. I mean, they're I think your second and third best player on the team. I mean, I guess you could make an argument for Goins or McQuaid, but I think they're clear-cut 2 and 3 on the team. Cassius is obviously your guy, but it'd be like if Michigan lost 2 of the 3, like, say, Poole, Matthews, and Iggy.
Yeah,
if you take 2 of those guys out, it's not the same team.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially Michigan because of our lack of depth on the bench.
And it also, that was one of the things that I liked about Michigan State coming into the season was how deep they are. But now you lose 2 of your starters, and all of a sudden your depth is gone.
Yeah,
because
well, you
these
take away
guys
2
that
of them,
were
right?
your depth are now your starters.
Yep.
And these guys who weren't supposed to have to play this year are coming in for big bench minutes. So I think the thing will be how long does it take. But not only that, but how timid is he? It's his scoring hand. I mean, he's left-handed. It's his left hand, and is he going to play as hard with it when he does come back?
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be the big question for State fans going forward.
Exactly. And now, like you mentioned, they got to rely on Tillman off the bench, a little more on
Which
Goins
he's been playing
and
well,
stuff.
to be fair.
Goins,
Tillman, I like him better than Goins
yes.
as far as the true post. I think he's really athletic. He's decent little mid-range game. He can't stretch the floor quite as much as Kenny can, but yeah, that'll be a big question mark for them, is how well does he play in Ward's absence, and can he play defense as well as Ward? I think Ward is an underrated defender for sure.
Right. And Michigan State, the question is, do they stand a chance of winning the Big Ten? As it looked tonight, it was looking rough. Now they still have 2 against Michigan, at Indiana, as well as Nebraska at home. Nebraska, any one of those games they could lose. They already lost to Indiana at home a couple weekends ago, and we all know that Assembly Hall is a very tough place to play. And then you got the 2. Yeah, exactly. We'll go over that in a little bit, right, G? But 2 against Michigan. Obviously, got 1 at home, 1 away. And of course, I still think they're there. You know, like you mentioned, their depth is a little less, but the only thing that's going to hurt them is the fact that they do not have that big body down there anymore in Ward.
If you get in foul trouble as well. I mean, Kithiers came in and played pretty decent, to be fair to the kid. I don't want to knock him, but he's not Nick Ward. You know, when Ward goes out and Tillman can come in as his replacement, it's a pretty good replacement. And same, when Kenny Goins gets in foul trouble, you go with Tillman and Ward. Or you can even go with one of those 3. But if Tillman gets in foul trouble and you have Kenny and Kenny Goins and Kithier, it's not the same.
And maybe you follow him a little more, G, but I had never really followed. Ward was one of my least favorite players. Again, I don't wish this on anyone, especially a young guy like, you know, the young kids,
right?
Especially when they're trying. It's a broken hand. I know it's not as serious as Langford's, but at the same time, you just hate to see anyone go down with an injury or something like that.
Well, because it hurts his draft stock. You know what I mean?
It does,
I don't know if he's going to get drafted or if he'll go undrafted and get picked up. But regardless, he's got a shot to play professional basketball at some level. And so for him to be injured,
he's definitely got the size.
To have it hurt that prospect, it does suck. I mean, like you said, I'm not a huge Nick Ward fan either. I mean, I'm a Michigan fan, and he's good. So I'm not going to like him. And I mean, him and Charles Matthews going at it last year was great. I liked watching that. And when Mo crossed him up and he fell, that was great.
Oh, that was fantastic.
But but of course, you never wish it on somebody, and it would have been nice to see a full strength Michigan versus a full strength Michigan State for those 2 games.
That's exactly it. I really like to beat them. You know, last year they were healthy, we were healthy. It was great games, both of them. Both games were fantastic. But nonetheless, you know, you kind of feel for the kid. You feel for both of them actually, Langford and Ward.
100%.
But we'll see how they pull through it. You know, Izzo's a heck of a coach, so
absolutely
we'll see. I can't wait for Sunday. I can't wait for Sunday. So it's going to be a fantastic game. So other scores around the country, and of course we'll go over the number 1 seed watch, some top 25 updates.
Sure.
Right now, you happen to have the score of the UNC Duke game, buddy.
20-9 North Carolina. Oh, I'm sorry, that's wrong. 28-17 North Carolina.
Oh my goodness.
11 with 8.5 to go in the first.
Wow. I did not expect that. Don't forget, folks, that is at Duke.
And I would like to point out that right before we went live, we were looking at the line, and Duke was favored by 9.5, and I said I would take Duke by double digits.
Ooh.
And now they're down double digits in the first half. So I'm just going to never bet on basketball again, other than what we're about to bet on later.
So, yeah, let's talk about that a little later. But last night we had Purdue, and this you'll love this, G. Purdue barely escapes last night against Indiana. G just hating on Purdue. All game long, and I was unaware that you are such a anti-Edwards / anti-Harms fan.
I don't like Painter. I don't like their coach. I don't know what it is about him.
Who'd you like better, Painter or Gene Katie? The best comb over in the league, folks.
You know,
I think G. Sorry, G. I think G could do that with his hair if he shaved it a little bit up there. Kind of did the comb over, right? The Gene Katie. We'll give G the Gene Katie look.
There we go. No, I didn't mind him. I don't like Painter. So Harms just bothers me. He seems like a jerk. I don't know. He just gets in people's faces all the time. He's like screaming all the time. He's like 9 feet tall, weighs less than me. He's a twig. He just bothers me, right? And my beef with Carson Edwards started when he came into the year just so highly touted, like he was this. And I was like, man, he's like a volume scorer. Mm-hmm. If he gets 20 shots, he's gonna make half of them. That was my thought coming into the year. My stat for you is that against rivals. Top half Big Ten teams or ranked opponents this year. So in big games, essentially, the kid is 82 of 280 from the floor. That is 29%.
Folks, that's like 200 misses.
That is your Big Ten Player of the Year candidate, including a 3 of 16 and 4 of 19 performance against Michigan State both times. Combined 7 for 35. And then 4 of 24 last night at his rival Indiana.
Those are fantastic stats, G.
What? But the thing is, he scores 24 points a night because he beats up on Rutgers and Illinois.
Right. So
and
is that
everybody like that? And
Take
so
garbage stats, right?
But his shooting percentage for the year is somewhere around 40%. He's not a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate. I don't understand it. But people love him.
Everyone needs to listen to that because
People love him.
this is a major stat that people don't look at. They'll look at points. This is a
Right.
couple of weeks. Our first episode.
gotta
Remember
dig
how
in.
we went with points per game, rebounds per game, assists per games, the big stats
Yep.
that people look for in terms of MVP and stuff like that. You need to look at the quantity of shots that people take in order for the score.
Exactly.
This is a typical. Everyone used to knock who was it, like Allen Iverson and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They said knock. Now he had a much better shooting percentage,
Right.
and I'm not going
Kobe
to
for the
knock
longest time
Kobe. Absolutely, I was just going to say him next. But people, I'm not going to knock AI because he's one of the great
GOAT.
small men of
Yeah, he
all
is.
time. So
Truly.
I can't knock him, but for what the attributes that he had. But listen to that, guys. 200 misses. That's against his rivals, right? And
Yeah.
who do you consider the rivals? G, did you
For
look
them,
that up?
just added Indiana to the list of ranked and top half Big Ten teams.
Okay.
Because Indiana this year is so bad that they wouldn't have factored into that. But last night
Understood.
against your rival, which I consider a big game, it doesn't matter if they're good or bad because obviously they show up to play. That was
Sure,
a great game
sure.
last night. And he went 4 for 24. For the year, he's 39.7 from the floor. So I was close when I said 40%.
We were talking about it last night, actually. How about that stuff by the rim?
That was my favorite play of the game. I loved it. I don't like him. If he wins Big Ten Player of the Year, I'm going to be so frustrated.
What do you think about Harms over the back at the end there? You let it go?
I've been saying, this is the third episode in a row out of 3 that I've mentioned that this is the worst officiated season of college basketball I've ever watched.
Yep, absolutely.
It's like I said before, it's a combination of the rules and a combination of just inconsistency in how those rules are enforced. It just there was so many calls last night.
Yeah, I
that
thought that
just
one. I
disagreed
thought
with,
that
and
one was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Was that Gordon down there boxing him out,
I don't remember if it might have been Davis, it might have been Morgan. I don't know.
or
who it
Morgan?
was.
I'm sorry,
It might
not
have been
Gordon.
Morgan.
Yeah, Morgan.
I'm not sure, but yeah, I thought
yeah,
it was
that-
pretty clear and out over the back, and they don't call it. But
To add insult to injury, guys.
But what a
we
game,
got-
though. I mean, again, one of those games with terrible shooting, but a close game down the stretch against a team that's in the bottom.
Well, that's why you got to love college basketball, right? Especially
Big
this
Ten
Big Ten basketball
parity
is
right
so
now
awesome.
is insane.
Yeah.
Anybody can beat anybody.
We got a 3-team race basically to the end
Yeah.
with Maryland still kind of in the hunt. I think they're gone now that Michigan beat them, but we got to play them again. So we'll see. And of course, how about to add insult to injury, folks? Last night we got Dan Dakich to announce the game. Our favorite guy.
wanna
I'm
talk
sure. G's not
Move
having
on.
it. So we'll move on, folks. So MSU Rutgers just ended about an hour and a half ago. MSU down at halftime, but then handled it pretty easily. So they improve again. So there's still 3 losses in the league. We'll move on. So again, like I mentioned, there's a three-team race right now.
It's the same
all with
story
3
in the Big
losses.
Ten, really.
Yep.
Nothing
Yep.
has changed because everybody's winning.
Yep, everyone's winning, and
The
we'll
big
see
games are coming
tomorrow,
up.
and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Duke takes over the number 1 spot after Tennessee loses to Kentucky. It was over the weekend.
Yep.
The problem was they lost bad. It was 86-69.
Never close.
Not a good loss. Not a good loss.
And I did say, so we're going to get into our number 1 seed
Yep.
tracker.
Yep.
And I had said last week that had Kentucky beat LSU the week before, that I had to put Kentucky in over Gonzaga or Virginia. I don't remember which team I said I put them in over.
What do you think now?
Yeah, I think it's, in my opinion, I've got Kentucky 3, UVA 4 with Duke and Gonzaga 1, 2.
Okay, so he takes Tennessee out of it, huh?
Yeah.
Thought that was your squad. G, you're all about Tennessee,
I still
man.
like Tennessee. I still think Tennessee's one of the best teams in the country. I still think they have the pieces to win it. I mean, it's Duke versus everybody, right? It's kind of the
It is,
mentality.
yep.
But I still think that Tennessee's got the pieces that they could do it. I just, you can't lose a game like that and hold your ranking, in my opinion.
Agreed. It was, like I said, it was just a bad loss. So just
Right.
a bad loss.
Right.
So follow up that Kentucky, despite losing to LSU the week before on that questionable no call again, officiating. Officiating and
I don't know if you saw, they lost today. LSU lost today at home in overtime against Florida.
and Kentucky still moves up to number
SEC
4.
is interesting, man. SEC is a really interesting, which normally the SEC is boring. I usually hate SEC
I know.
basketball. This year, it's wide open. There's 6 good teams. I think it's interesting basketball in the SEC right now. Because Florida just beat LSU by 5 today in overtime at LSU.
Oh, geez, that's a really good win for
Like
Florida.
right before we started, yeah.
Nice, very nice. So we got that, and Kentucky moves up to 4. You still got Gonzaga at 2, Virginia at 3, and like I mentioned, Tennessee drops to number 5. Now that's a huge drop for Tennessee after being ranked number 1.
1 to 5.
Again, it was because it was such a
way they
bad
lost.
loss. It was
and
a bad
the fact
loss.
that it's you can't not switch Kentucky and Tennessee, right? So they have to be behind Kentucky because they played head to head and they lost.
I suppose.
And then everybody else won, so it's hard to keep them above them, you know.
I really think, and I think Tennessee loses again because they looked pretty. I don't know if you watched the game at all last night, G, but Tennessee
They were sketchy against Vanderbilt.
Tennessee and Vanderbilt, yeah,
But
at
Kentucky
home, and that
wasn't
was
great against Missouri last night.
and that was at home. That was at Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which to be fair, Vanderbilt, I feel so bad for Vanderbilt. They're 0-13 in the conference right now, but they lost to Kentucky by single digits and to Tennessee by single digits twice. Like they're hanging with the best teams in the conference, but they can't get a win. It's
who was
weird.
that? That's like Penn State in the Big Ten, right? How
Yeah.
they had
Yeah,
except
they had 11 single digit losses.
I'm sorry to bring up Penn State, dude.
Fine, I don't want to talk about it though.
Yeah, that's what I thought so. So we got to Duke UNC as we're playing as we speak. G got a score on that.
30-19 North Carolina.
Oh my goodness,
5.5 to
that's
go.
amazing.
Also,
That's amazing.
Butler's up 8 over number 11 Marquette right now. So just
Okay,
keep an eye on
Marquette
that
could
one.
squeak in there. I don't have them even as a number 2 seed right now, but
no, I think they're a 3 or 4. But
so let's get into this.
Villanova lost
G,
again today,
I'm
too.
going to rock my current number 1 seeds. You might
Fire
be
away.
a little surprised.
who you got?
Well, of course, I got Duke right now. Now, of course,
If they lose tonight,
yeah, this is a big
they
thing.
fall that far though. I don't know.
Well, if they get, it's at home. Again, these at-home losses, you
Home
got to
losses
protect
hurt.
your home court.
Home
You
losses
have
hurt.
to protect your home court. So I got Duke, Gonzaga, still
Okay.
the Gonzaga, and probably number 2
My
because
1-2 is the exact same.
they just have no one left to play.
They're beating up on everybody they play. To be fair, they're doing what they can. They're winning by 15, 20
exactly,
points every night.
exactly.
They're doing
And
what they
and people respect Gonzaga. They got the name and stuff like that, and they're a good team. They beat
can.
Duke.
Deservedly so. Yeah,
They
went
beat
to a
Duke.
Final Four
One
2
of
years
only
ago.
2 teams to beat Duke, right? And then you're gonna be surprised at this one. And a lot depends on tomorrow and Sunday. I got Michigan as a number 1 seed
Right now, or
right now
No
because I
way.
can't stand Virginia and their way of playing.
you can't just not give them a 1 seed because you don't like
No,
the way
at
they
the right
play.
now, they're not. They haven't wowed me. I know they only have 2
They
losses
just
against
beat Virginia Tech
on
the road.
Ooh, I don't consider Virginia Tech a very good team either.
They're 20th in the country.
I understood. I just really have that feeling after, and like I said, this weekend's going to prove me majorly right or majorly wrong, right? If Michigan comes out and plays like they have been, then they'll get skunked at home by Michigan State, or they'll lose tomorrow. They lose tomorrow, then
Tomorrow's a
we're
trap game, man.
hosed.
I'm telling
Absolutely,
you.
it's the barn, But I really think from what I saw against Maryland, the reason I picked that is because, again, I alluded to, I feel their 3-point shooting is going to pick up. If their 3-point shooting picks up, they're going to be playing like they were at the beginning of the season because their defense is back. It seems to be back. They got guys scoring in double figures, more than just one guy that you can look towards. And they're hard to guard. They're hard to guard right now.
true.
And I would really consider if Michigan plays that way, obviously they can beat Virginia. They can beat Kentucky. They can beat a lot of those guys that I have and the number 1 seed. I don't know if they can beat Duke, not with the way Duke's playing. Well, I don't know how they're playing tonight.
Okay.
Obviously, they're not.
I'm just between the chat and between a little bit of quick research while you were talking there.
Oh, yeah.
Zion Williamson will not return tonight. Knee injury.
What?
I found a video. Hold on. This is all happening right
That's
in front of our-
breaking news, folks.
right in
That
front
is
of our very
breaking
eyes.
news.
Zion out with a knee injury. It looks like he was dribbling across the lane, one of those non-contact things.
What?
Doesn't look good. I mean, I
What?
don't think it's torn. It's not a torn ACL.
Still, that's. How about this, folks? Remember about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, when the entire country was picking on him. Well, about half the country was picking on him, stating, "Why don't you sit out the rest of the season? Just sit out the rest of the season. You're going to be a lottery pick." And he said, "Nope, I'm here to play," which I respect.
Which I love.
I love. Yeah, exactly. I love kids coming and play and continuing to play. I mean, he's overall like almost 100% in Vegas to be the number 1
something
pick.
Like 5,000 to 1 or 2,000.
Exactly.
To 1
If
odds,
you
he's
laid
the
like a
number 1 pick.
$2,000 bet
win
or something
$100.
like, yeah, exactly. So that's big news. Hopefully he's all right because I'd like to see him in the NBA and well, I'd like to see him back. Obviously next game. He's not going to return this game. Is that what they're saying?
It says Duke basketball tweeted that he will not return.
Wow, that's bad. Oh goodness. Well, anyway, G, let's move on to what do you got for
sure.
number 1 seeds this week, buddy?
Mine are again. This is obviously before this Duke North Carolina game. I got Duke number 1 overall, Gonzaga number 2 as they just continue to roll people. I've got Kentucky 3. They looked really good against Tennessee. Obviously, they got by Missouri, which is a win's a win in conference play. And then I have Virginia 4. I like Virginia. I think. I think Michigan's a 2. I really do.
Okay.
I
Is that why, just based on how they're playing right now and stuff like that, or you just
Yeah.
don't think that anyone else is gonna
think
really?
I think Michigan would
bow
struggle
out?
to play any of those 4 teams I just named right now.
Fair enough.
The way they're playing right now.
Fair enough. And I kind of disagree. I think if they
I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
like
I hope you're right.
I know. Yeah, I know.
For sure.
I know. I feel you, G. I feel you. So we'll move on to topic number 4, and that, folks, is the game coming up this Saturday. We're going to talk about Minnesota
sir.
here after this one, but just I'm sure, as all of you know, the game coming up this Sunday, 3:45 CBS. Don't miss it. If you're heading to the game, of course, be safe, but make that place rocking.
For sure.
We're winners of 3 straight against MSU, dating back to 2 seasons ago, actually.
Yep.
We're tied for the Big Ten, 3 losses as of right now, along with Purdue. But again, that could change before Sunday, hoping we don't lay a goose egg tomorrow. MSU just beat Rutgers. Again, we have Minnesota tomorrow night at the Barn. G, what are your thoughts so far on this one? I got a couple stats, but
Okay.
what's your take on it so far?
I think Michigan will be favored by a few. It's at Chrysler. State's got the injuries, etc. Michigan's won 3 in a row. Whatever you want to use as your argument. I think Michigan will be picked to win by a couple. My keys to the game is Xavier slowing down Cash just like he did last year. That was huge. I'm gonna go out on a limb right now, and I'm gonna say that if Cassius Winston scores more than 25, State wins. If he scores less than 25, Michigan wins. I really think it's that simple in this game.
I like that.
With,
I like that.
With Langford and Ward gone, McQuaid and Goins are going to get their buckets. They might get 8 to 12 apiece, whatever. That's fine. Henry as well. If Cassius Winston scores over 25, Michigan is in trouble. If we can hold them under 25 and just contain those other pieces, Orange is, I guess, an X factor a little bit for them, but I think Cassius has to go off at this point. I really believe that.
Here's kind of I agree with you. I agree with you most of the way there, G. The only thing, what if we reverse that? I also see us winning if we hold, and I think we can, McQuaid, those guys that haven't really
Henry,
stepped up,
Goins,
and
Tillman.
Winston goes off for like 30-something, but we hold everyone else
Yeah,
down. So
I mean,
kind of the
it's
opposite.
possible.
You got to have it one or two ways, right? You can't have Winston
Can't let
go
both
off
of
and
those
have McQuaid and Goins score what they've been scoring the last couple of games, right? I think if they both go into double figures and Winston goes off, I think you're absolutely correct. That's a win for MSU.
Yep.
And I really have confidence in Simpson. I just think he knows how to guard Winston. He gets in his head. And
Seems
let's
to
face it, I mean, Simpson's a great defender, period.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yep.
regardless
it's not
if
just
it's
against
Winston or
Cassius
not.
Winston, right?
Exactly. He's been locked down almost all season. A couple games here and there where he just looked like he didn't show up, but at the same time, I think he holds Winston. At least he holds him to. He doesn't go off. You know, he makes it so he doesn't go off. To contest all his shots. Don't let him drive to the bucket. It's very hard to get around
Right.
Xavier Simpson anyway. He's one of the quickest guys in the country.
Defender.
So
He's a good defender for sure.
So just a couple of, Michigan is allowing about 10, or Michigan's allowing 10 less per game than MSU at about 57.6 points per game. We went over this early. MSU is scoring about 10 points more per game at about 80.6. So awesome battle of solid offense versus solid defense, right? Especially after our last win against Maryland. We'll see how they play tomorrow against Minnesota. And so I guess, G, what do you think about tomorrow at Minnesota?
It stopped Jordan Murphy mode.
Of course,
I think the kid's making a run. In my opinion, I don't have a vote obviously, but if I did, he'd be all Big Ten first team. I don't love Jordan Murphy, but I don't think there's 5 better players in the league right now. He's a great basketball player.
Exactly. So you think he kind of gets it by default in a way, because who else are you going to give it to?
Right. Him and Hap and Cassius are probably your 3 locks for it. The other 2, Carson will get one. So there's one open spot, I guess.
Your boy Edwards might get it. What if Harms gets it?
Harms won't be it. No, but I think Jordan Murphy's got a spot on that for sure.
I love it.
And as a team, they're shooting well. They just shot 12 to 21 against Indiana from 3.
That's scary too,
It's
because
terrifying.
you never think of Minnesota as a good shooting
But Michigan's
team.
perimeter defense is what we're known for this year.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it'll be Charles or Iggy mostly responsible for Jordan Murphy, but whoever it is,
Get a body on him.
That's going to be the toughest job.
He just crashes the board so hard.
He
It's
does.
just an
Yeah,
amazing
He plays
athlete.
hard every second he's on the court.
Yeah.
Yep. But I don't. That's the only reason Michigan would lose is if we can't contain him. I think it's that simple.
Okay, fair enough.
Just
and
like the State game contained Cassius, Minnesota game contained Murphy, and
I think
you're
we
all right.
always, and maybe this is something we need. We always have the shooting bug at Minnesota at the Barn.
Yeah.
We do not
Tough
shoot
place to
well
play.
there. And to be honest with you, that'd be a cool stat to see is what do opponents actually shoot at the barn, because it is
Versus
a
what
tough.
do they shoot against Minnesota when they're at home.
Exactly. It's a tough place for anyone to play. In my opinion, it's probably the third behind, obviously.
Chrysler and Breslin.
No, behind.
You're not including
the
Michigan
Kohl
in that?
Center, behind the Kohl Center, and even Assembly Hall. Really,
Yeah, somebody else stuff too.
yeah. For Michigan anyway. For Michigan,
Right.
And I would agree. I still think we win the game, but I don't think we could shoot any worse. So if we do, we got problems.
Yeah. So I'm just update on the Zion Williams situation. His shoe exploded.
And that's what injured his knee.
The bottom, the rubber part of the shoe, and the top part came apart, and his knee jerked when it happened.
What kind of shoes
Can you
do they wear?
imagine spending $300 on a pair of basketball shoes and then you blowing out your knee because of it?
Who are they? What kind of shoes?
They're
does he
Nike.
wear?
It's got to be LeBron's or whatever. I mean, they're nice. It's not like he's wearing, but yeah. Anyway.
Oh no!
Also,
he got lemons. He got lemon shoes.
Also, getting information. Reed Travis, the big guy for Kentucky, is out for at least 2 weeks with a knee sprain.
What's going on? Okay, it's a game of attrition, folks. It's turning into
State's
NFL
got two guys
football.
out. Duke's got.
Stay healthy.
Right.
Just stay healthy, and you
that
can.
is knock
you can
on
go.
wood. Michigan has avoided injury.
Oh my goodness.
I shouldn't have said it.
We go back to it all the time, right?
have
You
said it
just
out loud.
jinxed us, G. You better knock on wood, right?
Right.
We say it all the time, and their depth is a problem. One of our guys go down, one of our starters. Livers, like I said, is coming into his own. So
Yeah.
I do like that. But oh my goodness, yeah, that is scary, buddy.
Those are big injuries.
Oh man, yeah, I can't even, I can't imagine. So, what do you got for you got them winning tomorrow night, or?
I got Michigan winning both games this week. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I like it. We will get into some of the. We'll get into the predictions right at the end there, especially for Sunday. So our next topic is kind of off the beaten trail, off of the games and stuff like that. But over my lifetime, this may be more pertinent to you, G. The fact that the Michigan MSU rivalry in basketball, anyway, was one-sided for most of my early life. For most of my early life, kind of almost like the Michigan MSU maybe football was kind of one-sided for you, right? We're kind of coming back from that. I think we're over the hump now. But in terms of the Michigan MSU rivalry in basketball, it's amazing. Michigan still holds the all-time record against MSU. But I'm not going to sit here and be kind of the typical MSU fan, and I'm sure you know these types, Garrett, where they say, well, you're judging it based on since 1901 or 1902. That's why they have a better record and stuff like that. History, only the last 10 years matters in rivalries and stuff like that, which I think is bullcrap. You got to take. I would put it in your whole lifetime, what you think, your lifetime, what you remember watching and stuff like that. And really, the stats overall, even with Izzo there, you guys are going to be surprised by some of these stats. So MSU has the 2 national titles. Michigan has 1. The one, and it wasn't vacated, thank goodness. So 31-28 MSU in tourney appearances. So MSU with 31 tourney appearances, Michigan with 28.
Not bad.
That's pretty close. They're tied at 14 apiece in Big Ten titles, outright titles.
Really? That surprises me a little bit.
They're almost dead even in win percentage, with a .608 win percentage for each. Like Michigan State has a .61, I think, and Michigan's at a .607 or something like that, but almost dead even over their history. Final Fours, 9-8.
Yeah, New Michigan State's got one more.
Yeah, one more in Final Fours. Here's a stat that kind of surprised me was Michigan has 10 Naismith first team All-Americans to only 5 from Michigan State.
I think.
Now, what do you think that is?
What
do you think about that?
Izzo's always got more weapons. I feel like Michigan for a while had one guy.
But how does Michigan have 10 and
they had-
Michigan State has 5?
I just think I think the way Izzo coaches, they're more balanced teams generally. I mean, again, this is all time, so I'm assuming it's
Exactly,
Izzo.
exactly.
Whereas the Beeline Michigan teams are well rounded, but prior to that, I mean, yes, the Fab Five. Outside of those 2 eras, I feel like Michigan was usually not very good and probably had one great player, but I don't know.
It's just insane.
I'd have to. I don't know who the 10-5 are. That's
exactly,
interesting,
that we
though.
have double over Michigan State.
Yeah, that's surprising. It's a little bit surprising.
Naismith Player of the Year. And also, we do have a Player of the Year, the Naismith Player of the Year. That was Trey Burke.
Trey Burke, yeah, he was
Michigan
the guy.
State has 0.
I think Trey Burke was one of those examples of, like, obviously towards the end of his career we had Hardaway and McGarry, but his first year there, he ran the show.
He did. I
ran
don't
the
disagree.
show.
I
He
don't
was great.
disagree.
I love Trey Burke. Might be one of my favorite Michigan players.
Now, my take on the whole rivalry is, and I'm going to go kind of, I mentioned this on the M Factor podcast before we played Michigan State, and that Beilin's a type of coach that seems to be overachieving
100%.
every year. He takes
100%.
these 2, 3-star, sometimes 1-star, sometimes community college. Duncan Robinson's a prime example,
D3.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. He's taking these guys and turning them into Final Four teams.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Duncan Robinson is the craziest one to me that he went from D3 to now he's on an NBA two-way contract right now. So and Beilein, I think, isn't solely responsible, obviously, but he's hugely responsible for the success of players like that. Look at Zach Novak. He was a 0-star recruit out of high school. Was given a 44 grade by ESPN. Like, just not a big recruit. Comes to Michigan, and granted, he's never going to tear it up in the NBA. He's never going to score 20 a night, but he scored double digits throughout his last year at Michigan.
You take a look at Trey Burke. Trey Burke, prime example. I mean, he was good. Was from Ohio, but I mean, he wasn't highly touted.
Right.
He wasn't highly touted by any of the major schools. You know, not to be
Same with Stauskas.
Stauskas from Canada, the Canadian A. And then you got what
Wagner.
about Muhammad Abdul Rahman from?
Yeah, Marr had a great career.
Yeah, yep. And then well, obviously Wagner, another great call there. All these guys, you never heard of them. I mean, Wagner was over in Germany. You know, nice. Then you get Iggy this year.
Yep.
You know, a guy that no one really looks at. And early on in the season, he was being talked about as freshman player of the year, right? So then we got, and it kind of goes, you kind of flop it to where Izzo seems to be underachieving as of late. Last year, I thought he had one of the greatest teams ever. I mean, he had 2 first-rounders. He still had Cassius Winston. He had Langford. He had a lot of these guys that he has right now, but you had Miles Bridges and Jackson, 2 of the best players in the country.
I think it depends on what you're looking. I mean, so as far as the NCAA tournament, as of in the immediate history of the NCAA tournament, yes, Michigan is far overachieving. I mean, if you'd have told me at the beginning of last year that
I'm talking Beilein, not
right. If you'd have told me that last year Michigan was a Final Four team early in the year, I'd have thought you were crazy. Whereas if you'd have told me State was a Final Four team, I'd have been like, yeah, totally makes sense. And then so for them to flip that, you know, and Michigan to make it to the title game and State to get bounced early. The Middle Tennessee State year, was that 2 or 3 years ago? I don't remember. The State got bounced by them. State struggled in the tournament. I don't know what to chalk it up to. Because the thing, they're not struggling really in the regular season. I mean, they're second or third.
They're still right there. They're still right
top
there.
4 in the Big Ten almost every year. I don't know what it is that they can't translate that to tournament success the last few years. I don't really have an answer.
I guess the reason I bring it up, in my opinion anyway, is the fact that Izzo underachieving simply because he does have amazing 5-star talent that he gets.
Yeah.
And what does he do? He should be winning the Big Ten every year. He should be. And don't get me wrong, the Big Ten's very obviously one of the best conferences in the country. No doubt about that. But when you're getting hands
so you
down,
think what Ohio State is doing to the Big Ten in football is what Michigan State should be doing in
I
basketball?
totally agree. Just
fair.
running the table. The table. And like I mentioned on the podcast, I feel like Beilein is almost like the D'Antonio because D'Antonio does the same thing, right?
Yeah,
he manages to take these 2, 3-star athletes in football and turn them into, I mean, they went to the Rose Bowl with D'Antonio and stuff like that. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, exactly. Unbelievable. So I feel, don't get me wrong, obviously I despise D'Antonio, but Beilein, you got to trust him, and he's 9-11 against Izzo. He had 2 really bad years, and the rivalry's kind of gone in spurts, right? Michigan would win 3 in a row. Sparty had that one run of 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Kind of in the middle there. And as of late, obviously we've mentioned it, Beilein is 3 in a row. And I guess my turning point in the rivalry was 2 seasons ago when Michigan had lost to Michigan State at Breslin, and they come back to Chrysler and just destroy them 86-57. So Michigan destroys them 86-57.
Yep.
It's almost like that kind of when the tide turned, because even though I feel Michigan State was a much better team last year, we still kind of owned them We won by double figures in both games last year. Only played them twice, and it just. I was at that game when it wasn't even close, and we were ahead by more actually at halftime. So
Yeah.
but still, I feel it's a great rivalry, simply because of the. I wish it would kind of alternate. Well, of course, I wish Michigan would win. I wish Michigan would win every game, but at the same time, you love those rivalries, right? Which is something we'll get into here in a little bit. So, what's your take on the rivalry, though, G? You think it's still 50-50 basically, or?
So I was looking at just some trends in said rivalry, and I wanted to see, like, in my lifetime, because I remember it, obviously, like you said, it was not very balanced during the amateur years, we'll call them. Michigan State beat Michigan 20 out of 23 times the first 15 years of my life, which is trash. But
there you go. There you have it, folks.
starting in 2011, Michigan has been 9-7. Beat them more than we lost to them. Won the last 3. State had a streak of 5 before that. We had a streak of 3 before that. It's been a little bit of back and forth, but in these, like, swings. If Michigan wins both games, it'll be the first 5-peat we've had against them since 88 to 1990, which is a crazy stat that we haven't won 5 in a row since.
That's a good one right there. I like that stat. That's a good poll, G.
But yeah, I think that, like, we talked about this when we talked about why I like basketball more than football. Beeline reinterested me in college basketball as a Michigan fan over football. This rivalry is a big part of it. When Michigan State's football team got better and started beating Michigan, it flipped in basketball, and so I was like, well, I mean, I'd rather watch us win than lose. So I guess I'm going to be a basketball guy now. You know?
And like you mentioned last week, basketball. You love the game of basketball, and that's fantastic. And as a guy who was born obviously before UG, when our football team just took a dive, Beeline was the savior. Beeline was the savior.
100%.
I'll tell you what, and I know a lot of you guys out there obviously feel the same way. Know what I know because we all experienced it together. When Michigan was really struggling with the Rich Rod, Brady Hoke eras. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Beeline. We looked forward to basketball season.
Yeah, legitimately.
As a football school, we looked forward to basketball season.
They were just likable then, I think, was part of it. You know, a bunch of, like,
yeah.
You said,
Remember we had
2 and 3 star
Zach
recruits.
Novak, big Stu Douglas. We had
Harris, Courtney.
We had
were under recruited and got to play big time basketball and won some more games than they should have probably. And Darius Morris, you know.
Morris, Horton. Remember Horton?
Yeah, Daniel Horton. Yep.
So we had. For basketball, anyway, the sanctions against us from the Fab Five and stuff like that. But for a long time there.
Appreciate it.
What's that?
I said, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's rough, G.
Jalen,
that's rough.
all you assholes.
That's rough. A great fun team to watch. I remember that was the first basketball that I really watched. I was eight years old.
I'm just trashing
7, 8 years old.
Because he made the first 10 years of Michigan basketball in my life terrible.
And they were, and that's what Beeline came back and he brought us into the tournament. His first year wasn't so great, but brought us into the tournament, and boy, were we happy about that. It was a good time. So we'll move on to our new segment. And it is Call the Three. It's kind of something we did last week, but we're going to label it as Call the Three now. And it's a little fun thing where me and G just kind of shoot off 3 different headlines to each other and see what we think about them, basically. He'll put his opinion on mine, and I'll give my opinion on his 3. So first for G, I got for you. And they can be anything, too. You know, it doesn't have to be Michigan and stuff like that, but sports-related, of course.
Yep.
So Lions... True or false, the Lions should draft the best available QB this year.
No.
To replace to work Stafford in.
No.
Go on, buddy.
If Rashawn Gary is on the board and the Lions don't take him,
true Michigan man to heart, folks.
I love Gary. No, but I don't think they should take a quarterback. I think there's too many. Is Stafford a franchise quarterback anymore? Probably not. But are there bigger holes that need filled on the team than quarterback? Yes. Can you wait?
Gee, I like that.
Can you wait till later rounds to get a quarterback? Yes. Can you wait till next year to get a quarterback? Yes. You have other options.
That's a +1 for you, G. I like that. I like that. Good answer, folks. Good answer.
Proud of myself.
So number 2, I'm not sure if you saw it on Twitter or any sort of social media.
Okay.
Did you see that kid setting a screen on Trevor Lawrence and just getting jacked in an intramural basketball game?
No.
Intramural basketball game. Look it up. And it was across half court, and Trevor Lawrence, of course, just towers over this kid. Trevor
Yeah.
Lawrence.
And a kid tried
For
to
those
set
of
a
you who don't
screen.
know, he's a quarterback for Clemson, the national championship team. Had a great game and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid yet,
Oh, I am.
but I know we discussed this
He's
the
my man
first episode. Yep. And I'll tell you what, he just levels this kid, and the kid was basically blindsiding him for a screen, and he kind of ran over him. Then he tries to get him again. How bad is that kid going to feel? First of all, I guess it's like 2 questions for you,
Yeah.
G. One, what the heck is Trevor Lawrence doing playing
I was
intramural
gonna say,
basketball?
Did Dabo sign off on this?
Exactly.
Did he go to Dabo Sweeney and say, "Hey, can I play?"
I mean,
hoop?"
don't get me wrong. I'm all about being athletic and
Well, because the Chiefs just
conditioning.
Did
but
you guys did you see what the Chiefs Patrick Mahomes? He was playing basketball and he looked really good in this clip. It's like a 3-second clip. He crosses over one dude, spins on another.
I'm
one,
sure
and
he's an
finishes.
amazing athlete.
But
so.
I guess the owner or the GM or somebody reached out to him and was like, "Shut it down." So like, did Dabo Sweeney say, "Yeah, go ahead and hoop on the off season"?
Well, that's a question for you, G. So,
know.
1, how'd you like to be the kid if you do
It hurts
injure him?
him.
And 2, what the heck, Trevor? What are you doing out there on an intramural
I would
court?
do the same thing if I was Trevor Lawrence and I'm a good athlete. I'd be wanting to play basketball. But yeah, what kind of but it's intramural. This kid goes to the same school as him. Why would you? What are you doing, bro?
He would be treated worse than what's his face from the Cubs. They caught that?
Yeah, the guy who reached over.
Jeez, I can't remember his name. Sorry, guys. That's a brain fart. But yeah, the guy that caught the foul ball and oh my goodness, he was booed out of town and
Chastised, man, yeah.
death threats and oh my goodness. So yeah, what the heck?
What are you doing, man? That's the "What are you doing" award for the week.
Oh, I like that.
Is
Yeah.
the brat who's trying to set a screen on Trevor Lawrence in a freaking intramural basketball game.
Who is it on TV that does it? Come on, man. Oh, it's
Randy
Chris Carter. Or
Randy
Chris Carter.
Moss.
No, I think
He's-
it doesn't Chris Carter.
Is it
Come
Chris?
on,
Oh, I
man.
thought it was Randy
What are
Moss,
you
but yeah,
doing?
either way.
Yeah, that's we'll do the come on, brah. What are you
Yeah.
doing, dude? That's hilarious. So,
silly, man.
yeah, you have to look that up, G. It's pretty
I'm gonna
impressive.
have to check it out for
And
sure.
Trevor Lawrence is obviously like, what are you
huge.
doing, dude? What are you doing?
He's huge. Of course, he's gonna run him.
And
over.
everyone's like, dude, you don't.
Yeah, you don't screen our freaking starting quarterback.
At the other side, I want to win. So hey, you know what? Intramural basketball or not, we're
Take
fighting to win.
Take hoop serious. Yeah.
Exactly. So the third one I got for you, G, on Call the Three. It was a question on Twitter actually that I stole, but I was really interested in your take. Being a younger person, the best college rivalry, and you had 4 choices: Michigan, OSU, obviously, in
talking just
college
football?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Army, Navy, in football. Duke, UNC basketball, and then you have Auburn, Alabama, obviously in the Iron Bowl.
All time.
Nope. This is to you.
Just what do I think is the best rivalry?
Absolutely.
Duke, North Carolina.
Okay.
You know
and I can
why?
totally see that.
You know why?
Yeah, let's hear it.
My stat in the last 103 meetings, it's 52-51, and they've scored a difference of 3 points
It's
in those games. I mean, yes, I love Ohio State, Michigan. Personally, that's my favorite because I'm invested.
Of
because I'm a
course,
Michigan
of course,
fan.
yep.
But if I'm unbiasedly choosing, it literally can only get 2 points closer than that. You know what I mean? Like that's so close.
in
It's
100
insane.
meetings, folks.
In 103 meetings. That's
That's
nuts.
mind. You want a rivalry? That is
That's
what
it.
that is
Exactly.
a rivalry
And,
right
then,
there.
and anything can happen. Right now, we've got North Carolina up something at halftime.
Yeah, what do you got, G? What is the score?
42-32 UNC at halftime.
Okay. So.
Anything can happen in this
Yep,
game, you know?
yep,
so, yeah, I
absolutely.
would pick that one for sure.
All right, G. What do you got? What do you got coming back at me,
All
buddy?
right.
For call the 3 here.
A little Michigan-ish.
Okay.
Jerry Kill, former Minnesota head coach.
Yep.
Absolutely ripped PJ Fleck.
Says he's all about himself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I saw that. I
Said
saw that.
Do I love watching them win games? Do I still root for Minnesota? Yes. Do I love him running down the sidelines? Absolutely not. What are your thoughts on old PJ?
On PJ,
Rowing the boat in
well, I
Minnesota.
was always I grew up around Central Michigan, so me and my dad always used to go to Central Michigan games and stuff like
Oh,
that.
so
So
you're like-
I despised Western Michigan.
Oh,
I didn't care much. I one thing I did like about PJ Fleck was I liked he was kind of like Sean Payton-ish, or not Sean Payton,
Sean McVay.
Sean McVay, like you know, in terms of a younger guy,
Yep.
had all that energy,
thought the
bringing
same thing.
something new to the game.
And so
Still
my-
couldn't stand him though.
Yeah,
just
so-
because of the teams that he coached.
Yeah,
and
I don't
stuff
have
like
a
that.
bias, but my thought was like, it seems like he's like a player's kind of coach. Like players
Yeah,
would love
sure.
him. But like now I'm starting
Oh,
to
he's
wonder,
almost
like,
their age.
But
So
now that Jerry Kill came out and said this, do the players actually hate him and they're college kids so they can't say it? I don't know.
You're talking hate Jerry Kill or
No, hate PJ.
Oh, PJ. Oh,
I don't know.
boy, I hope not.
don't know.
I mean, you gotta
Oh, I do too.
invest in your coach. Obviously, you wouldn't take a scholarship from him or something like that if you didn't.
That's true.
Care much for the coach,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
I mean, especially if you're Minnesota caliber, I guess.
That's
What do you
facts.
got?
That's
What else
facts.
you got, buddy?
I got Manny Machado. I know you're not a huge
Oh, yeah.
baseball guy, but
Oh,
it's
I'm
a
a-
$300 million contract
Yep.
over 10 years. I was curious what your thoughts are. Is the salary cap not being implemented in the MLB good, or should they go to what the NBA and NFL do, and
Well,
why?
first of all, they have that huge luxury tax, right, on the salary cap. So, and what does it matter when the owners of these teams are billionaires? To go back to your question, actually, can't stand it. Not because of the money. You are going to regret that 10-year contract. Now, I know he has a buyout after 5, or not a buyout, but he can
Opt out after 5 years.
choose to go free agent right after 5 years. I can't stand a 10-year contract. You look at anyone in the league, name one player that has worked out for 10 years.
Right.
10
That's
years.
fair.
Name
But do you
almost
think
like
it
5.
But do you think it hurts baseball that there's no salary cap? Like, do you think there's less parity in the MLB because of it, or do you think that doesn't work? Because I think it doesn't work. Because obviously the idea behind a salary cap is every team can only spend this amount of money, therefore it's more fair. But look at the Warriors. Look at the Patriots. Is there really parity in either of those sports anyway? Is it working? I don't think so.
That's such a great question because it's almost like it is working for the one half. Because you look at the Rams, they spent a crap ton of money on their players for this
veterans
season
for 1 year.
And then
it's
and
like
then,
a rental program.
And then you got New England, which is systematic.
Right.
Players taking pay cuts so they can get better players in there and stuff like that. Then you go to the MLB, the Houston Astros. Not a very high payroll. Then you got the Dodgers, right? Who come,
And the Yankees in Boston.
Yeah, you got Boston Yankees and the Dodgers, but you got the Cubs who didn't have to spend a lot of money.
so
You have the Astros that didn't have to spend
Of course,
the money.
yeah, there's always, my thing is like, yes, there's always outliers. There's these low budget teams like Houston, like the Athletics during the Moneyball era that are going to be good. And then there's those big budget teams like the Tigers there for a minute that are going to be bad despite their payroll.
Exactly. And that's a perfect point. That's
Right.
my overall take on it is I think in baseball, here's what teams are starting to do. I don't like that trade because Machado, it was in Vegas. It was going to give him 2 more wins.
Yeah.
In the standings. It's gonna
Right.
give them 2 more wins.
Versus his replacement.
Here's what it's gonna do. It's gonna put butts in the seats.
True.
You're gonna go to the games. You're gonna buy a beer.
Yeah, baseball's
you're
a
gonna
lot
buy.
about
You're gonna buy.
finance, I
So they're
think,
paying them
teams.
$30 million a year. No, you take all that away. You're actually only paying them $20 million a year based on the income that you'll be getting just by getting him. You're not gonna help your standings or anything like that. But in baseball, I think a lot of teams are starting to go to, and I think the Tigers are trying to do this too. Hence why they cleaned house, and they
Yeah.
also can't get rid of Miguel because they signed him to a
that big
long-term deal,
contract.
right? I think what really happened there, or what's happening is they're starting to follow the Cubs. They're starting to follow the Astros of getting these young, talented players who they don't have to pay yet and making them play for a
build
solid
around
3 years, right? I think there's some sort of, if you're like a rookie in the league or something like that, I don't know if it's the same rules in MLB as it is in
Contracts
NFL.
are so
But,
confusing to me, but
but yeah, that's my take on that whole thing.
My
Don't mind
last-
them getting paid, but
yeah. My last one for you. LeBron and the Lakers are currently not in a playoff spot.
okay.
Well into the second half of the season. Do you know when the last time was? I'm going to give you a trivia one at once every
Okay.
week. My last one every week's going to be trivia. Do you know the last year that LeBron was not in the playoffs?
His rookie season.
His second season.
Oh,
04-05 when he played for the Cavs. Now here's just some fun facts. In 04-05, that's the year that YouTube was founded. That's the year Michael Jackson was found not guilty of all those charges about little kids. And that was when Lance Armstrong won his last Tour de France. It has been that long since LeBron has been in the playoffs every year since then,
CG.
including 8 straight finals appearances.
That means nothing to me and probably most of our viewers because I was in college at that point, so that was no big deal for me,
Doesn't feel
buddy.
like that long ago to you? That
No, it does
04
not.
feels like so long ago to
I
me,
cannot
man.
believe I've been in Jackson for 12 years now, folks,
Yeah.
and ever since I graduated from Fair State. And I'll tell you what, it's been great, but at the same time, it does not feel like I can
Really?
still remember New Year's on the millennium, buddy. So good old the year 2000 came in.
Yeah.
Will Smith, Millennium, jam into that. I'll tell you what, if you haven't heard it, I'm
Will
doing a little my Will Smith plug for the episode.
go.
But yeah, I did not know that, and what are your thoughts on him making the playoffs this year?
Good. I don't like him. I think he's the best basketball player I've ever watched. I think
No,
he's much
do
fun.
you think they make the playoffs or not?
No, I think they're gonna get ninth. I love the.
Ooh.
I'm a huge Kings fan. I don't know
Sacramento.
why. I like De'Aaron Fox and I like Marvin Bagley. Do you know who's in the NFL when he last missed the playoffs?
Joey Harrington.
John Navarre was an NFL quarterback the last time LeBron.
We got a
missed the
couple of
playoffs.
minutes left, and he
I
squeezes
just
it in.
snuck it in there.
Squeezes it in.
Boom, 3 for 3
Oh
on the
my
John Navarre
goodness!
mentions.
You know what? If John Navarre comes
But
up
you're
on
right.
the
Joey
call
Harrington
to
was
three,
also in the NFL then.
oh,
Joey Harrington was a starter. John Navarre was actually he played a little bit that year for the Arizona Cardinals.
I don't even know what you're saying right now. Gee, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness! But let us know how you like that segment, folks. Besides that last part, because that was nonsense. Trust me, I know a lot of people that don't like John Navarre either. I don't know as badly as I do, but oh, goodness gracious!
One last UNC update. They are up 15 with 17 minutes to play.
I think
52-37.
if Zion out, I think that just took the wind out of their sail. And
Looks like it.
I really do.
Looks like it.
Just some other quick news before we wrap it up, folks. Again, sorry for the shorter episode. Actually, maybe or the delay, yeah, of course, and also maybe. I don't. Who knows? Maybe you guys might actually like an hour. Let us know if an hour show is we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, some negative feedback. We've gotten a lot of good suggestions and stuff like that. So we really appreciate it. Just some other quick news before we sign off here. Michigan spring game has been announced for Saturday, April 13th at 5 p.m. at the Big House, and can't wait. Of course, it's only a couple months away. Gee, it's almost March, so we're talking.
Yeah.
Talking only
I'm
a
not a
month
big
and a half.
spring game guy, man. I can't.
I'm really not either. I went last year just because I knew I was going to start the M Factor and stuff like that.
Okay.
I really wanted to get some.
I'd like to see Joe Milton play. I'm a big Joe Milton guy.
Dude's got a cannon.
We haven't talked football at all in here, but I'm a big Joe Milton guy.
We will. I think if this show continues to go well, guys, we'll definitely hold it during football season and stuff like that. If G's still available, you know what I mean.
Wednesdays
You know what I mean.
For me, yeah.
Speaking of which, G, you got anything going on this
Saturday,
week for shows?
Cherry Creek Winery. I've never played a winery before.
A winery? No kidding.
Down in Brooklyn, yeah.
People
2 to 6,
getting all
afternoon show.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
No, it's 2 to 6 on a Saturday. A little afternoon action, lunchtime, dinner time music. Yeah, should be good. I'm excited.
A little easy listening from.
Might be my last
from
show with
G.
long hair.
Oh, that's right. That was our very last thing, folks. Gee, I'm glad you brought it up because we have one other thing to discuss. Maybe two, but they kind of tie together. Gee, what's your pick for Sunday's game, buddy?
Michigan by 6.
Okay.
What about you?
Michigan by 5.
Oh, okay.
I'm going Price is Right style, so you overbid me, and you're screwed. You're screwed. But you also could be screwed in another way, too. So, folks, I know we mentioned last week, we got to get this guy a haircut. If you didn't notice, take off that hat, G. Oh, goodness. I mean, you got to look at that thing.
It's gnarly.
G, how long have you been growing that out?
9-10 months.
Jeez,
Almost a year.
it's almost a year, folks. I mean, be happy you still have hair, G, but I'll tell you what, jeez, yeah. So anyway, the decision was we're probably going to go with what
we're going to go with the over under because the spread. Obviously, none of this is announced yet because the game isn't until Sunday. But we're going to go with the over under for the total points of the game. No matter what it comes out at. I'm going on a limb here. No matter what the over under comes out at for total points in the game, I'm taking the under. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think both teams are going to slow the other team down, get them out of their game a little bit early. I think it'll be a low-scoring first half, a little higher in the second, but I think it's going to stay under the over-under. I'm taking the under. If it's over, I will cut my hair off.
Well, folks, 99% of us will probably be rooting for a very high-scoring game this weekend, especially the people that are there. Obviously, they want to see some points.
Yeah.
Gee, I want to be with you because I do think it will be a big defensive game, especially with the way
you're pulling for 100-100.
I am pulling for a haircut for Garrett Collier. I'm pulling for a haircut for G. I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably would like to see that too. Maybe some family members and stuff that wouldn't mind you getting
my mom despises it. I don't think my dad likes it either. All my friends think I look like a ragamuffin. Everybody's going to want this game to be 100 to 105.
Guys, we don't have him on the show for no reason. Rebel G, that's what we call the rebel. The rebel millennial. There we go. That's what we'll start calling you, G. That's what we'll start calling you. So anything besides that? So we got Michigan over Michigan State this weekend. That's the pick.
Yep.
We will be back next Wednesday, folks, at 9 p.m. Hopefully no technical difficulties.
Yeah.
We will try to bring it to you right at 9 p.m. And I apologize for any technical difficulties. I don't know. Did we get any chats or anything during?
Bartman is your Cub fan.
Bartman. Thank you. Thank you.
That's about it. Yeah. Pop says that if Michigan doesn't sweep Michigan State this year, it's sad.
Oh,
we
whatever.
we don't have an excuse. There is no excuse not to win both of these games. There's
Besides-
none. Two of their best
You
three
could
players
never-
out.
every
I agree.
every year I think that is when Michigan State happens to have a good year. It's almost been every year. It's almost like, oh, this will be a rebuilding year for State. Oh no,
Here they come.
here they come. And then like last year when I thought they were just gonna be loaded, guaranteed #1 all year.
They struggled.
And what do? We beat them twice. We sweep them last year.
It'll be interesting. I mean, it's right though. There's no excuse for us to lose. If we do lose one of those games, we got beat. There's no because of this, because of that. Like State fans, 2 of their 3 best players out. We don't have that at all.
I know.
No reason to lose these games. None at all.
I totally agree. But you never know. Like we
Also,
said,
the
if it's
Indiana AD about 45 minutes ago, it came out that he apologized to Purdue and their fans and warned his students about their behavior towards Harms last night.
oh yeah, I
'Cause
saw that earlier on.
They were
Yeah.
chanting F Harms all night.
Oh man.
Which I joined
And then what does he do? He beats them. So I think Harms got the best out of that, right?
because he cheated. But other than that, yeah, it's fine.
So all right, folks. Again,
Whoa,
sorry.
Pops just picked MSU to lose by 28 in the chat so that I have to get a haircut.
Okay.
He said 98 to 70.
Okay. Now he's just reaching, so he
just
doesn't
wants
have
the-
to
no,
explain.
he wants the haircut is what he
All right.
wants.
Well,
He
I
wants
agree
the
with you. I agree with you, Jeff. I agree with you, buddy. Anything else, G? Before we
That's it.
sign off for the night, again, everyone, thanks for participating. Thanks for being
Appreciate
patient with us. If you didn't catch the show, because I assume there were some people that got off and stuff like that,
Yeah, probably.
simply because we were on the actual, we weren't on the link basically that the show was scheduled on. We had to go live now basically. So next week we'll get it all hatched out. Appreciate you guys chiming in and stuff like that. Make sure you subscribe. We really appreciate it. We're getting up there on subscriptions
Feeling
and
it.
stuff like that. I really appreciate it. I know G does as well. We will see you guys next Wednesday. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.